Part 1. Pack down procedure. Turn off the machine. Turn off the gas. Disconnect the gas line and replace the bung. Remove the mounting bracket. Fold away the cable. Be careful not to twist or bend it, as it can cause damage to the fiber optics. Check carefully for any kinks or twists, and untwist if needed. Hook the laser gun back on its holster. Remove the ground clamp wire. Before removing the nozzle or retracting the wire, make sure to snip the end of the wire. Welding blobs can form here, which will make the wire larger than the nozzle diameter, and it won't be able to be pulled through. Open the compressing knobs to release the wire. Pull the wire out of the feeder tube while maintaining tension the entire time. This is to prevent it from unspooling. Wrap the wire around this hole to prevent it losing tension once you let it go. Remove the spool cap to mount the spool and remove the collar that attaches it to the mounting plate. Replace the cap once you are done. Loosen the screw holding the feeder wire tube and remove it from the feeder mechanism. This is the process to change from a single to a double wire feeder mechanism. The parts needed for assembly: the power cable for the double wire feeder mechanism, the signal cable, the double wire feeder tube, the feeder wheels and laser nozzles, and the stand. Connect the power cable, aligning the ridges with the keyway channels on the socket. Connect the signal cable using the same method. It connects to the socket on the left. Choose the correct wheel following the procedures discussed earlier. In this case, we're using mild steel 1.2 millimeters. The lower of the two spool wheels is spool B. It turns anti-clockwise, while the upper, spool A, turns clockwise. Remove the cap on the spool wheel and insert the collar for attaching the spool to the mounting plate. The pin on the mounting plate goes into the matching hole on the spool. Replace the cap to lock it in place. Keep tension on the spool by holding the wire. Snip the end of the wire to remove any bends or kinks. While maintaining tension, feed the wire through the guide tube and into the feeder mechanism. The wire sits on the channels of both wheels. Once it is all the way through the feeder mechanism, close the guide wheels over the feeder wheels and push up the red knobs to lock them in place. If the knob does not want to go up, this means that the wire is either not sitting correctly in the channel of the feeder wheel, or the feeder wheel is an incorrect size. Set the correct compression value on the compression knobs. Spool B turns counterclockwise and must be loaded in the opposite orientation. Use the procedure discussed previously to load and mount it. Loosen the screws at the end of the feeder mechanisms. Observe how one tube is longer than the other. The longer one goes into mechanism A, the shorter one goes into mechanism B. Insert the threaded end of the wire feeder tubes until the nut touches the feeding mechanism. Retighten the screws to hold them in place. Set the feeding speed. Shown on screen, users can select whether to run feeders A, B, or A and B at the same time. When the feeder is not in use, it is always good practice to disable it by pressing the stop button. Now, set the speed to 70 centimeters per minute. Press manual feed until the wires are completely through the feeder tubes. Attach the new feeder end. Slot the feeder head over the feeder tube as far as it will go and tighten the screws to secure it. Install the mounting bracket. Locate the correct sized 2-wire nozzle. Note that while the display diameter is 1.2 millimeters, the actual is 2.4. Secure it in place with the screw. To install the double wire feeder mechanism to the laser welding machine, start by removing the old feeder's signal cable. Remove the cover of the terminal block. Pins 7 and 8 are the signal pins for the internal wire feeding mechanism. Remove the wires from these pins. These two wires connect to the internal feeder mechanism. Replace these wires with the two signal wires for the new feeder mechanism. It doesn't matter which one goes into pin 7 or which one goes into pin 8. Replace the laser nozzle with a double wire nozzle. These are the same as single wire nozzles, with 2 channels for the wire to slot into. Attach the feeder wire head to the laser welding gun through the mounting bracket. Ensure both wires sit in the slot on the back of the laser nozzle. While holding both nozzles, tighten the screws to lock it in the current position. Both nozzles must touch to form the circuit, after which welding can begin. For testing, set the power to 30%, wobble frequency to 100 Hz, and wobble amplitude to 4 mm. Observe the laser welder. Observe the penetration and the quality of the weld.